Can you imagine the pure joy that was on Samuel L. Jackson's face when he got this last script for this final episode and saw he gets to scream out the words testify with a gun in his hand, getting someone closer to Jesus? I mean, he's in hog heaven. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. The 8th and final episode of the Fight Night miniseries is here. It's called Testify. It wraps up everything with a nice little bow. It's not clean. It's not perfect. I think we'll get into it, but it delivers on what it promises and delivers on what I expected for this finale to do. I think this is a series that started really strong to hook you in. Had some high points and low points. Nothing really that I was like, this is a bad episode. There's not one of those in this entire thing. But other than the sort of soap opera-esque-ness that felt at the end of the last episode, that doesn't really rear its head too much here. It gets back more towards the blaxploitation piece of it. But I don't have anything bad to say about this finale. It does what it's supposed to do. So this episode picks up with Cadillac speaking to the firm. He's having them have a conversation in Atlanta on a rooftop to say, hey, I spoke with Frank after everybody left last time, and I informed him that, hey, Frank, I think you should hear these folks out. They don't feel like there's a partnership happening, and they feel the type of way. And he's like, and he read me the riot act. He read me the riot act, and he spoke down on me, spoke down on you guys, he spoke down on everybody. And it is clear he's leading them up and galvanizing them, telling them that, hey, Frank is clearly taking us down a path that we all don't want to go down. Now, he mentions the robbery and how there were people who did the robbery and how they were all sort of victims of it. But he is smartly not saying that he's the man responsible for it, because even if he is trying to take a coup on Frank, the way that he went about it by putting their lives in danger, putting their respect in danger, they're going to feel a type of way if and when it comes out. It does. And so he's not leading or putting that information out there. He's just saying, hey, Frank is doing this dirty. Frank did my daddy dirty. Let's finally take some of the onus back on ourselves. We can do this without him. So the plan is, let's get him to his plot of land, the land that he's been so dying to get. Let's get him to that plot of land, and let's take him out and bury him in his own freaking desires. They're all on board for the most part because Cadillac is getting them to believe that Frank killed Missouri Slim, which he did. They don't know why, but they do know that Missouri Slim is dead, and they believe Frank did it. That's an automatic grounds for dismissal within the firm. Within the rules that they have sort of established that that's an automatic grounds for dismissal. And Cadillac sort of got them hooked in, and so now he's sort of leading with, this is what we're going to go do. So the plan is for Cadillac to meet with Frank and sort of sweet talk him into getting himself, and how galvanized, how interested he is in the land. He goes to have a dinner with Frank. Lamar is there in the background just hanging out. But they're talking. He's sweet talking the deal. He's like, look, let's get these folks down there. If they're not about being a part of this deal in this land, we'll take them out. We'll kill them. Bury them in there. Like there's no games to it. And so he's throwing it on heavy that he's fully behind Frank. Frank's like, all right, cool. Just like your daddy, like you about that business, and we gonna make this happen. Like, it's good to see the two of us on the same page, making this work. He then gets a call. Someone comes over and tells him, like, hey, Cadillac, you have a call from Emerson. Now, we as an audience know that's not possible because Emerson is dead as a doorknob. But he gets on the phone, and it's Chicken Man, who is telling him that, hey, I know that you are responsible for the robbery. I know that you had Emerson up to do it. Oh, and by the way, Emerson's dead. Dead as hell. Like, ain't nothing. He ain't coming to the phone because he's dead. He says, like, I want you to meet me at this diner. And Cadillac is like, okay, sure. That whole plan is like JD and Gordon have set up a plan to sort of use Black as bait and kind of get some information to sort of run an operation on Cadillac. Cadillac takes the bait. He's heading over. So he gives Frank this cockamamie story about his mom being ill and how he has to get up out of there. Frank's like, cool, tell your mom I wish her the best. Frank and Lamar sort of give each other a look like something ain't right. Like this boy ain't telling us everything. Cadillac shows up to the restaurant with Gordon and immediately pats him down. Starts patting him down, checking for a wire, see if there's anything that he's trying to record him on. He's also trying to see if there's a weapon. So he's patting him down, seeing he's like, nope, he's clean. So at that point, he then goes on to the other side of the table and sits across from him. And he's sort of loud talking, being a bit belligerent and disrespectful. He doesn't respect your command. He's like, you don't have testicle fortitude to try to shake me down. Like you're not going to get anything from me or out of me. But Gordon lets him know that I know you planned the entire robbery. He tells him a story about Emerson. He tells him about like, hey, do you know who Willie Black is? Now that name immediately clicks to him because he does know him. He may have never actually met him, but he does know him via Emerson. Kind of like feigns ignorance, like I don't know what you're talking about. And he tries to get Gordon jammed up because there's some police officers, beat cops that come in uniforms that come in, and Gordon is sort of like trying to hide and trying to be very incognito, like the don't jam me up. He's playing it off well. It should have dawned on Cadillac in this very moment that because he mentions it, he's like, you kind of brazen to be coming out here into this diner being prime suspect number one. Your names and faces are all everywhere. That should have been a red flag to him that like, hey, something is off with this. For him to just be like out in the open, no shades, not hiding his face or anything, should have been a telltale. But I digress. It's just to show you how nonchalant and how little he thought of Gordon in all of this. Willie shows up with the bag of loot, drops it next to Cadillac, and then sit next to Gordon. It's at that point that Gordon tells him that like the other bags are outside. Emerson's in the trunk. Here's how we're going to play this. We're going to say that Emerson was completely responsible for all of this. Like that's what we're going to do. We're going to say that Emerson's responsible for every single piece of this. And then we're going to bury him, throw him in the lake with the body of the water. It'll get the sin off of me. It'll get the sin off of you. And then you can do whatever you want to with Frank. So at that point, the Cadillac gets up to leave. It's like, cool, I'll take your idea, your suggestion under advisement, under consideration. Of course, like, you can take him under consideration. And at that point, he gives Willie a look, and Willie just goes on and pulls the tale about his dad and how Frank had his dad under his thumb, and his dad was basically a bitch. Like, he literally, that's what he comes out to say, which sets Cadillac off. He slams his hand on the table, gets the attention of those officers once again. And sort of just starts going on about how he was the man and how Frank was nothing and how he did all of this. He was the mastermind that put this into effect. He says that yes, we can go ahead and do that plan with putting Emerson there in the lake with the jewels. And Gordon sort of takes it back like, well, it's just crazy to me that's all I was with this. Like I was just a happy pawn and Cadillac's like, you were just a happy accident. Like we were willing to literally do this without you. But when you were trying to grasp for a golden ring that didn't really belong to you, we're like, well, this just works out. This gives us another path to that. We don't have to put any stank on us. Like my plan was just some straight smash and grab shit. That was the plan. And you got very happy and you got in the way and we ran with it. He then is headed out to leave. At that point, JD shows up with a gun. It's like, cool, you're under arrest because this whole diner sequence was a big ruse and sting operation that was set up thanks to all of Gordon's contacts, all the numbers that he's ever had, he's never known. He's cashed in those favors today. This diner has been abandoned. Now, you would think that the people of the town, they are aware that diner doesn't exist. Cadillac's not from there. Cadillac's from New Jersey, and so he has no idea whether that diner is active or not. He just knows that's where he wants to meet, and he knows that, hey, this is where I'm going to go to. It also is why it doesn't flag to him that nobody in there is pointing out to Gordon that he's there. And so that should have been a red flag, but it wasn't. Cadillac just so in the moment, is so gung ho on trying to get Gordon out of the picture. So they arrest him. We see a whole little flashback of how this was all set up. It's pretty cool. It's very Ocean's 11-ish, which I dig. And everything seems to be on the right. They arrest him, put him in the back of the car. They also put Willie Black in the back of the car, squad car as well. When in the back of the squad car, Cadillac starts talking to Black. It's like, hey, look, we can work together with this. We can do this together. We can figure out a plan. And Black's like, what is all this we stuff? We. Like, you are one of them folks that when it gets down to the brass tacks and it gets really dirty, the we goes out the window and all becomes about you. So we can go ahead and throw that we out the window. Kind of like threatens him and says that you know what happens to stitches in jail. And Black's like, well, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take my chances. Like, there's no we. You did this to yourself, and it is what it is. We time is done. We time is over. He then gets shot in the head. As Lamar, Frank's number two, comes, shoots shoots Black in the head, and then grabs Cadillac, puts him in another vehicle that he has, and they grab Gordon, put him in the trunk, and then they take off. Lamar and I guess Frank's number three is who takes him off. And so JD's pissed. JD's like, well, crap, hold on. This whole thing has been, we just lost a key piece of this. And so he takes matters into his own hands. Now, before all of this, they do get the confession on tape. One of the people that was in the stage setting at the diner was recording everything to have the confession. So they have the confessions on tape. But they still need to have both either Gordon or um, Cadillac alive to just be able to take this to front of a jury. Like, no one's going to believe this confession if the other person is dead, nor does it matter. But JD's more so set to go try to save Gordon. Um, Frank is having a conversation and a meeting with Vivian and trying to set up and figure out what the next sort of plan is for their funeral home business. They're taking the name and switching it to, instead of Bankhead, I think Funeral Homes, it's like Bankhead Unlimited, where it sounds more universal. When they're coming up with that, though, JD comes in and takes a gun to Frank's head. Frank tells the girls to go out onto the balcony, and Frank and JD have a back and forth. JD immediately asks, where is Gordon? Like, where are their whereabouts? And Frank was like, if I were to know where they were, why would I tell your no cop ass? So he has the information now that JD is no longer on the force or is currently suspended. It's at that point that Frank is like, you used to be a N-word killer with a badge. Now you're an N-word killer without a badge. Now you're gonna have to see what it's like to be one without one. And JD's like, yeah, you're correct. And at that point, he takes Frank and pushes him out to the balcony and is just like holding him at gunpoint with the threat of throwing him over the balcony. He has nothing to lose at this point. He's not a cop. Like, this is what he's going to do. He tells him, like, we're going to trade. I'm going to trade you, the person who was completely and totally responsible for robbing you, and you're going to give me Gordon back. And Frank's like, why the hell would I do that? And then JD's like, well, you're going to do that or you're going to see if you can fly. And at that point, Frank's like, cool, my car or yours? And so we then see Vivian driving both JD and Frank to the spot where Frank has Gordon driven to. There's a lot of schoolyard back and forth, penis measuring contest between the two of them. Like, I got a gun on you, you got a gun on, you gonna have more guns on you when you get out of this car, yada yada yada, back and forth, to the point where Vivian then stops the car and sort of have a conversation with all of them. Like, look, this dick measuring contest needs to stop. We all need each other in this. We don't we are now in a situation where we don't want this to be all that it is that we ever are. Like, you don't want to just be a beat cop or a detective. You don't want just this. I want more for my life than what this is. Right now, we need each other. So let's stop this bickering back and forth and let's figure out what it is that we're going to do to get up out of this. This is one of the few parts, whereas the diner sequence was sort of a surprise to me, this piece wasn't. And so I could sort of see how this is playing out on the back end, but it still came together nicely. But whatever that conversation was, we don't see the next piece of that, which sort of comes up with whatever their plan is to once they get to the job site. But they get to the job site. JD gets Frank out of the car at gunpoint, to which everybody, Cadillac, Frank's number three, and Lamar all take a gun pointed at JD. Frank's like, put your weapons down, put your guns down, stop all this BS. Like, let's figure this out. Mind you, Gordon is on the ground by the hole that they've sort of dug. So he is weaponless. So at that point, Frank's like, all right, we're here. We're here. Go ahead, testify. Tell me what the hell's going on. Give me your man. Like, what's going on? it's immediately that Cadillac starts making up excuses. Like, yeah, well, Frank, I never lied to you. I never done nothing to you. He's starting to do his fast talking, uh, get out of a jam speech where um, JD and Gordon are telling him, like, yo, he's the one responsible for this. Emerson was his man. They all tell him that Cadillac is the man behind all of this. Um, to that point that Frank asked for JD's gun, and JD's like, hell no, I'm not giving you this gun. What do I look like? And Frank orders Lamar's like, Lamar, if you don't give me this gun, by the time I count to three, you got the right to go ahead and put all the bullets you have in your gun in Gordon's head. And JD's like, all right, screw it. I'm going to give you the gun. Mind you, no cop ever is going to give a criminal godfather their gun unless they've already sort of set up a plan. So that is when it was already evident to me. I already sort of gotten it, but we didn't get to see the piece. But it was clear then that this is all a ruse and they're all working together because there's no way he's giving him that gun. He's either going to go out in a gunfire or figure out some other way to get even up the playing field a little bit. But he gives him the gun. To that point that Frank orders Chicken Man Gordon to go into the trailer with him. He's like, you come in the trailer with me. Gordon, instead of immediately just going up into the trailer, Gordon immediately was like, hey, let's just let Vivian and JD go. Like, good to show that there is some humanity now that is sort of starting to fester up. He's like, hey, can you just let the two of them go? Frank's like, this ain't a negotiation. This is an execution. Like, what the? And he says it in a way that only Sam Jackson can say it. Like, yeah, that's a Sam delivery right there. They go into his office, and we sort of see the scene that we had sort of seen earlier, where Gordon is on the ground begging for Frank to not kill him. So we come in together now. We finally see that sequence, and Frank is letting it be known that, like, hey, when I killed that Spanish guy who was messing with you, and you were down on the ground, I wanted to kill you too. Like, I wanted to kill you both of you. Then you started just spouting off with that mouth of yours about all these things about how great Atlanta could be and how you could see the future of Atlanta. You could see this piece, and it was doing you were talking about all the things that were in my head, and it made me think, like, do I want to kill this dude or do I not want to kill him? Because he's talking the game that I'm talking. Perhaps to my bad judgment, I let you live. Then he says, this morning I had a conversation with Cadillac, and he was buttering me up about all the plans he had for this land, a piece of land that he doesn't care about at all. He doesn't care in the slightest. And that's when it clicked to me, this is where he was going to go and make his move. He doesn't care about this land. He's from Jersey. He just wants to do all that gangster shit. And I don't have time for that. I'm trying to make a better life for myself, but do better things for myself. It's at this point where they're talking in there, the rest of the council sort of shows up. And Frank is sort of put together with Lamar that this is what their play is going to be. But he wants to sort of see it out to see where they're actually taking this. Frank lets Gordon know, it's like, I can't kill Cadillac. Like, I can't do it because if I do, it's going to be a whole bunch of perm-wearing New Jersey light bright mothers that's going to come down here and start giving me problems. And I don't want those problems because I want to make this a better city. It's like, right now, you and that cop out there got him dead to rights. So if you do this right, if you do all of this correctly, you can put him away for a very long time. And so that is becoming a little clearer on what the plan is that JD and Frank sort of had in that car. So it's at that point that Frank says, but I still got to do what's right for business. And Frank puts a gun towards Gordon and kind of is like, look, I need you to come clean. Like, who are you? Like, I need you to testify as if this is the last moment you have in life and you're about to see the pearly gates. He gets on some biblical Pulp Fiction type stuff. Like, this is the last thing that you're going to go see. I need you to testify and tell me who you are as a man. And that's when we sort of get our Gordon come to Jesus moment. Literally, this is the point where when we see in the back end, the coda that kind of comes in, he becomes a man of faith. And this is sort of that moment that sort of it all awakens for him because he doesn't think he's going to have anything else on the other side. But he just says, I'm a piece of shit. I'm a motor mouth. I'm a piece of shit. I'm an adulterer. I'm a no good wife. I'm a no good husband. which then makes me a no good father. Like, I am a terrible human being. I'm a cheater, no good. This is his come to Jesus moment. And then we hear Frank pull the trigger. We see the reaction of the folks outside because he pulls it in a way that it seems like he killed Gordon. And that is what he wants everybody outside that trailer to believe. But when we go back inside the trailer, we see that he took a shot to the right of Gordon's head. And he tells him, "It's like, look, you're forgiven. Like, whatever you just came with, you got it all off your chest, you're forgiven. Go with God. You'll be fine." It's like, I don't play the numbers, Gordon. I play chess. And you're a pawn. And right now, I need everybody out there to believe that you're dead. So he'll make his move. Now that he thinks I've captured you, you're dead, he will now sort of relinquish whatever last piece that he's holding on to, and he's going to play the rest of his cards. And I need him to do so. So then Frank steps out of the trailer, and yeah, Cadillac plays the rest of his card. He pretty much lets it out, saying like, "Hey, you're out, Frank. We, as the firm, have all voted. You're out, and you're done." And then Frank's like, "So that's the play. The firm is turning against me." And Lamar and Frank pull their guns on Cadillac, and then Cadillac, some of the folks from the firm, and then Frank's number three turns on Frank and then sets his gun on Frank and Lamar as well. Cadillac wants to immediately start the killing of these folks and burying with JD. Now that Gordon's off the board, that's one of the two people that he needs to know he's actually responsible for this. So he's like, let's take out JD. That's going to be the next person I kill. Then anybody who has actually records or knowledge of me doing this is off the board. But when he goes after JD first, JD's kind of like, "Hey, look, y'all need to know what actually happened." And like, he pulls out a photo of Emerson and Black and Willie Black. He starts telling the firm stuff. And a couple folks at the firm kind of like, "Well, hold on, let's hear him out before we go ahead and kill him. Like, if he's gonna die, he's gonna die. Let's just hear him out first." JD shows him that photo, and it immediately starts to click to him like, "Wait a minute, kind of like this all doesn't play right. Like, you did have something responsible for this." Before he can get any further, before guns start firing off, um, the Atlanta Police Department show up and start arresting people. Anybody who has a gun that's not with the police department, yeah, go ahead and drop those guns to the ground. And so they all do so. And so the plan was to sort of, in the car, they discussed, "I'm going to call the police ahead, get them to come down and surround us and help us out. But let's play this to the point where we get everything that we need to know out on the open, and then we'll play it." And so once the police arrive, they all do their thing. They start arresting, and then I think Frank makes the chicken noise to have Chicken Man come out, present himself, and Cadillac is like, "Oh crap, he was still alive." Like, he just fell into twice in one episode. This shows you how ignorant and how much greed he wants to just sort of take control, that he is not seeing the telltale signs of they are pulling several wolves over your eyes. But yeah, gets got again. And this is when we start getting into the wrap up piece of the show. Vivian and Gordon have a nice little heart to heart. I think I said before, I thought Vivian would at least even offer Gordon an option, like, "Hey, you can come join me, but I'm going to be the boss this time." Doesn't really happen that way, because he is so set now. Like, I don't want any more parts of any of this life. But he just goes, it's pretty much, it's an apology to be like, "Hey, I did you dirty." And she's kind of like, "Look, I'm ready to stop being a passenger and going forward. I want to be the driver. So whatever I'm planning going forward, I want to be the person in complete control of it." He says he respects that. JD then tells Frank, "He'll get you and your crew up out of Atlanta. Like, get out of here." To which that sort of ends that sequence. JD has to kind of deal with the ramifications of this with the police department, because he never told his chief about any of this. The sting at the diner and all of this stuff. This is all being done because he sort of just asked his friends for help to sort of make it out. But there's reporters outside the police station to sort of take credit for whoever was responsible for this. So JD is like, "It's all you, chief." He's like, "Well, that was the play here. You're gonna let me kind of take kudos for this?" Like, "Yeah, it's all yours." He's like, "I only need a couple things from you." So he asks specifically for when Chief is giving his speech to make sure that um, he releases Chicken Man Gordon from anything connected to this at all. Like, he was completely and totally innocent. And then the other is he's been reinstated. He's now part of internal affairs, and his first order of duty under internal affairs is to the officer, I think Bill, who called him the N word in the field. He gets arrested. So yeah, a little bit of comeuppance there. The next piece is Gordon goes to go see Faye, and he tries to make amends. He's smart. He has a taxi cab come with him, and he sort of just holds things like, "Don't leave, just stay there." Um, but he sort of apologized. He says, "Look, I thought I could be a man of both worlds. I thought I could be Gordon at home, and I could be Chicken Man in the streets, and that those two wouldn't mesh. But clearly they did, and it brought a lot of pain and suffering to you and to the kids. And that was not my intention, nor did I mean that at all." Um, kind of leaves it in a way where that's all he's going to say. He's like, "I want to say more things." She's like, I don't want to hear any of that." He's about to just take off, and then she asks him. He's got a sort of foot in the door. She asks him, "Are you hungry?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm famished." It's at the point that he signals off the taxi cab driver. So at least he is now being able to work on himself again and work on this again. He's gotten a fair shot. He goes in and eats, and then we jump ahead. I don't know, years, because the kids have sort of aged up a bit. But he becomes a pastor. Gordon continue that coming to Jesus moment in that trailer sets him down a path of becoming a pastor and sort of using the things that he did illegally to sort of tell people like, "Hey, that ain't the way to go. Don't be like me. I got myself in some jams and some bad situations, and but I am back on the up and up." We also see a bit of a moment where the land that um, Frank always wanted gets purchased by Bankhead Unlimited, which is Vivian and Frank, and so he got his piece of that. And we sort of see that this is sort of planting the seeds that established Atlanta to become the great mecca that it is. Basically, now it's the Hollywood 3.0. It has become a massive place. And this story is sort of saying that we had this sort of the breadcrumbs to sort of start that piece. But pieces of this story are based on reality. So we got a couple of live photos of the actual people that JD and Gordon were. Obviously, everything here was embellished, but it was a sort of a cool come around moment to show. Because Muhammad Ali is only in the first 3 episodes, it shows Muhammad Ali still being an active part of Atlanta. And then sort of his come around when the Olympics were in Atlanta, he was one of the people who was the torchbearer at the Olympics. So full circle, big sort of a love letter at the very end of this to Atlanta. Again, all comes together with a bow. There's nothing that I did not like about this this series finale. I think it didn't blow me away. There's nothing that I was like, "Oh my God, that's fantastic." It does everything that a good story should do. It wraps up all the pieces. It gives me a little bit about what happened to them in real life. It feels like the perfect sort of ending, but it's not one where I'm like, "Oh my God, that changed the way that I feel about television," or that I expect it to be. This is a very good, from start to finish, black exploitation esque era miniseries that I think was really smart to release the first 3 episodes as one to sort of hook you, and then you kind of never really get let go at all through the rest of the series. Fantastic cast from top to bottom. There's not a weak link, I don't think, in this. The Debbie Allen stunt casting was interesting because it's only in that little 5-minute piece at the very end of the last episode. She doesn't come back up in this episode at all, other than by name. So, yeah, solid cast. Good to see black talent all on screen together. A lot of folks, some have worked together before, some have not, and they all come together quite well. It's good, truly good to see Don Cheadle and Kevin Hart, who are friends in real life, do work together, and they have amazing chemistry together. And I would love to see them continue to do more. I think it's also good that this is the second time, third technically, because I think Fatherhood is pretty much a drama too, that Kevin Hart has done dramatic work and it works to his bit. He's good at it. This character is a little bit more in tune with who he is, so it's not that much of a stretch. Whereas I think the one that was in True Story with Wesley Snipes on Netflix, that character is also in line with who he is because it was a comedian, but it was a more serious take of it. Both of them still in dramas, both of them giving stretching the dramatic chops a little bit, but it's clear that this is a world that he can play in if he finds the scripts that sort of fits what he needs. But all in all, I'm a fan. Good series. You should watch it if you haven't. Obviously, if you're here, you've watched it all. But I think you should go ahead and tell people to go ahead and check this one out because it's one of the better things that Peacock has done. What do you guys think about this series as a whole in the season series finale of Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist? Go leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.